Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. After the address by Sheikh Asim, we all were on uruj. It's a concept that we've all gone up close to the heavens. So to bring you guys back down, I'm going to bore you, not necessarily bore you, but a more technical topic. And I choose to address it from a very practical aspect, and I'll try and keep it short, and maybe we can have some interaction. This topic was born out of the fact that over maybe the last few years, every now and then you get a colleague nudging me and says, hey, this product has got this ingredient in it. Is it halal? And we try and work out, and we go to the halal authorities to find out, is this product halal, not halal? And like that, now with AI and the Google and that sort of thing. So, and then the WhatsApp groups and this mufti and that mufti. So this triggered my curiosity to explore this topic, and I must confess I'm not a mufti. I'm not going to be issuing any fatwa, and it's just not my lane. We need to stay in our lane. I'm a urologist, and if you need any urological issues sorted out, I can help you with that. But yes, I've got some background in Islamic fiqh, and I can share some ideas, and I hope we can stimulate some discussion. So the first thing emphasizing is that I want you as medical practitioners, and I'm really, really excited, I must say, to live this day. We've been attending IMA conventions for many years now as students and through the ages, and this is really very exciting for me. When we have these two big streams of knowledge that Imam Shafi, as I mentioned, has acknowledged as the two major fields of knowledge, the knowledge of deen and the knowledge of tib, and we intersecting them at a high level at a conference like this is very exciting. This is what is ultimately should be happening at a conference like this. And I want to just give you an insight into the mind of the jurist, because very often our interaction with an alim and ulama have very different experiences, and often we have this glib where we feel that the alim or the mufti is not in touch with what is experienced on the ground. They are unable to conceptualize an understanding. So I'm going to get you through the mind of a jurist, and it's fantastic. It's an amazing, the depth of Islamic jurisprudence will far outweigh what we've gone through in our medical training. I also want to create an awareness, because I realized from my experience, we just prescribe medication and we just don't know what's in the medication. And until somebody asks you, and in fact, many, many times I've been asked by a patient, but doctor, this is got egregious. And me, being the Muslim practitioner, have a responsibility. And that's what I want to talk about. What are our responsibilities? We're speaking about ihsan in this conference. If we really want to be on the top of our game, this is surely our responsibility. We are prescribing medication to a patient. We surely should know what we are prescribing in terms of halal and haram. Yeah, I'm making it very clear. I'm not going to be pronouncing on halal and haram status on any medication, because it's too complex a topic, and I'm not from one of the halal certifying authorities. Well, NIHT is doing the food here, so let's be... So we all know that consuming halal is inextricably, I cannot even pronounce that word, but it's very closely tied with our faith. We are so conscientious of halal ingestion, and we know. And in fact, speaking to one of the certifying bodies, they say if we had the same drive we have for halal food, for halal medication, we would have a flourishing halal authorizing medical body also. So this is my idea, is to stimulate this, inshallah, that we can get to that. There's multiple ayat in the Holy Quran that talk about it, the hadith, about the flesh that is nurtured with haram will not enter the fire. We have a default status. And I know the brother asked the question, and it's a very, very pertinent sentiment that he mentioned. And I think Mohammed Raymond is here. I don't know if she's here. He has a pet peeve, but I also have a pet, I don't know, what's the opposite of peeve, Mohammed? But this is one of the things that I'm glad you mentioned the sentiment, because we have this sentiment that everything is haram. Every time you ask the mufti, this is haram, that is haram, there's nothing left to be halal. But this is what the dominant view in the madhab, the dominant view from majority of the scholars is that the default status of consumables, what we consume, is permissible until it's explicitly made haram. This is the dominant view. Look, there is a difference of opinion, as our respected mufti sahab mentioned. But that is a minority view. The majority view is that consumables, and there's a qaida in fiqh, that the consumables are permissible. And interestingly, the consumables we do consume are both plant-based and animal-based, and just naturally we would think animal-based would be halal, but not necessarily so. This is just the ayah from Surah Baqarah, just outlining what we're talking about, and we can see they very, very clearly mentioned is the flesh of swine, and that's why pig seems to stand out in our minds when we talk about halal and haram, the moment we hear pig. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention of those animals that are sacrificed on names of other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is non-halal slaughtered meat. And Allah mentions a very important principle at the end of this verse that the fuqaha use. And I was telling you about the sophistication of the jurists. The many principles that a jurist applies to come to his verdict. And it's not just suck of the thumb. It's a very deliberate process that the fuqaha, the muftis, the ulama go through to decipher whether something is halal and haram. And one of the very important qaidas, or the very important maxim that is coming out from there, is that, if a person is forced out of necessity, then there will be no haraj, or there will be no wrong on him to indulge in something haram. Some of the problem, there's a whole list of problem substances, and it's not possible to go through all of them, but these are the common ones that generally we will see in medications that commonly get asked about. And gelatine is used in almost most medication in some form or the other. It's a binder, it's used in capsules. It's amazing. Once you research this, you realize that gelatine is found so ubiquitously. And another one that triggers a lot of discussion amongst us is alcohol. The alcoholics has got, 10%, 20% alcohol. There's something called stearic acid that I was not even aware of, that there's some medication, and many medication, that have stearic acid. It's fat-based. It comes from animals. It can be plant-based. Then we have cell lines. What's the status of cell lines in the development of vaccines? We know various different embryo cells are used in the development of vaccines. Something like rennet, animal-based, fat. Shellac, interestingly, shellac is from a bug, and it gives the shiny appearance on the tablets that we see. We got something called cochineal, which is from insects. So, I will restrict this talk to gelatine and alcohol, or else we'll be missing Zohar Salah and lunch. Just give me times when I need to, 10 minutes up. So we'll have some interaction, discussion, inshallah. So the two I want to just touch on, and I must make it clear that I'm staying in my lane. They say you must stay in your lane, because they are definitely experts in this field, and I'm touching on this topic from a very shallow base of knowledge. But I wanted to create this awareness and stimulate some discussion, and particularly we have ulama here who are sitting, we can take this further. So the scenario is, I was asked recently, Doctor, I need to take 50,000 units of vitamin D, and the only preparation of vitamin D in a capsule form has bovine gelatin in it. Is it halal? No. I think a lot of us in this room may be taking this capsule. And it's triggered a question in my mind. What is the halal status? Now, the first thing we would do is we would go to maybe our local imam, maybe some mufti we know, we've got him on our WhatsApp group, or we would follow a WhatsApp group, and then this auntie said this, and that one said this, and we would get our fatwa and continue. But it's a real question. Yes, capsules are generally made from gelatin, and gelatin, we will see, are either porcine derived or bovine derived. Yes, we do have animal derived gelatin, but the vast majority of gelatin used in medication are from these two sources. In Europe, up to 80% of capsules are porcine derived. Up to 80% porcine derived capsules. In our part of the world, they say, and again, the experts say that it's a bovine in origin. So what is gelatin? Gelatin is a protein from collagen, and we all know the high concentration of collagen is in skin, bones, and tendons. It goes to, why is it so popular? In the food industry, it's very popular. In the medical medicine or pharmaceutical industry, very popular, because it's a very good gelling agent. It's good for thickening. It's good for stabilizing. Think of the jelly sweets we eat. That's gelatin that makes that jelly feel to these products. So it's used in food for that product. And yes, it's used in medication, particularly for capsules. Now what happens with gelatine? It's taken from either the skin of the pig or the cow, the hides, or from bone. It goes through a process. The porcine skins go through a acid process where there's hydrolysis taking place, and these skins are totally removed of all the other products, and they developed into sheets. Same, the cow hides go through a different process with alkaline, a liming process to achieve similar results. And we get extraction through, the whole thing goes through various processes until it gets ground into powder, and that's how gelatine is sold. Now there's a concept in fiqh, and I'm just touching on this really as a non-expert, but just to give you an insight, how important it is to understand how the mind of the faqih or the fuqaha or the jurists work. We know there's a concept of istihala. Istihala, I'll explain to you what the literal meaning is, but we know that wine is not permissible to drink, but vinegar is. And where does vinegar come from? Vinegar comes from wine, and it's through a natural fermentation process. When wine changes to vinegar, it becomes jaiz, it becomes permissible to have. And this triggered the fuqaha to come up with this concept of istihala. So what is istihala? It's a concept where a prohibited substance undergoes a complete transformation and becomes a different substance with a new name, characteristics, properties, making it pure and permissible to consume. So you think, yeah, so this is what happens with the collagen from the hide. It becomes gelatine. It's called a new thing. It looks like a new substance. So as I mentioned there, that wine changes to vinegar, and this is where the precedence is got from for the faqih. Now, and this is just to give you an idea, the depth of Islamic scholarship and the depth of the principles applied. We've got 4 schools of Sunni Islamic thought, and they have a different level of communication to decide whether they would accept this criteria. And amongst the Hanafis and the Malikis, they would accept this concept, that vinegar, wine changed to vinegar, we can set this precedent to other things. So they accept this concept. It's important for me to mention this because the Shawafi and the Hanbali school of thought do not accept this. Now, there's differing options with regards to whether the collagen in the skin of those animals really changes its form into another substance. And you will not believe it, there are some really good experts overseas who've gone through right to the molecular level and the chemical makeup and have pronounced that no, there is the same chemical compound is found in the gelatin that is found in the skin. And they've made an analysis and they said it's just like cooking. If I gave you porcine meat, but I told you, no, I've cooked it and now it's changed. It's changing its color, its texture, it looks different. It's cooked pork chops. Will you have it? And that's the analogy they used. And they said, this is not a new compound. Istihala has not taken place. So this is the dominant position. I must confess that there are other positions in the world, other ulama who feel that it has taken place. There has been istihala. There has been a complete change to another product. My job here is just to open the discussion and not to pronounce on it. But I must say, with regards to bovine, there is a bit of leeway and laxity when it comes to bovine for other reasons. And it's not the scope of this talk to go into it. One of them is they do not consider the meat, for example, of the bovine animal, do not consider the bone, for example, to be in the same ruling as meat, for example. So if you're getting it extracted from bone, it won't take the same hukam or ruling. So another ruling or another principle that the fuqaha extract from looking, as the Sheikh mentioned, looking at anatomy and physiology and not doing brain surgery, the fuqaha are the ones who are the trainers of who have sifted out from the Quran and Sunnah principles and ways to navigate for us through these type of ethical questions. And very important principle, and Mufti Sahib did allude to it, is that ad-darura. Ad-daruratu tabihul mahdhurat, meaning that necessity allows laxity in the law. And we mentioned it in the plenary session also. We have this concept of the fiqh being idealistic, whereas the fiqh is not an idealistic situation. The fiqh is we are able to navigate different times that we live in using the principles that these great fuqaha have laid down many centuries before. So this is an amazing principle extracted from the ayah of the Holy Quran that I mentioned early on, that necessities will permit the prohibited. So, scenario 2. We've got a cough mixture and the alcohol is in excess of 10%. Would it be halal? I'm sure most of you have had this question and think about it still, but we still have the cough mixture. We know there's ayat of the Holy Quran that talk about khamar. They talk about, and there's many ayat that I won't go through, but these are ayat emphasizing the prohibition of us consuming. I'm using the word khamar very purposefully. Why I do that is that we've got this concept of alcohol, and alcohol is not permitted and alcohol is haram. This is the way we use this word, but it's very loosely used by us, and really it is very loosely used because we know that alcohol is not the same as khamar that is referred to in the Holy Quran. It's a very technical discussion that the fuqaha have gone into, and really when I went into this discussion I was thinking of maybe I should change my topic for today. But it's a very technical discussion, but it's an amazing discussion and takes you to another level of scholarship in the Muslim world. But khamar mentioned in the Holy Quran, what the scholars tell us, and this is the majority view, is that it's a beverage from grapes and dates. And it could be dried grapes, which is raisin, and dates. It can be either the fresh dates or the dried dates. It's impure, meaning that if it falls on your clothes, you cannot read salah, and it's impermissible to drink. This is khamar. This is specifically for this product. It's coming from a specific source, and this is khamar. On the other hand, we have something called alcohol, which we use interchangeably with khamar, which is not necessarily khamar. Alcohol is ethanol. We have different forms of alcohol, and they're used for different, for different uses in the industry. But the one that is consumed is ethanol. Now, ethanol is a chemical compound found in khamar that causes intoxication. The fuqaha tell us that ethanol per se is not the same as khamar, so it's not impure. But the haram, it becomes haram. It takes the same ruling as khamar. If it goes through a certain process, there's a certain concentration and there's a certain intention we drink it with. And as I say, the discussion is very lengthy. It's just a very overview and a synopsis of what I'm giving you. So in essence, ethanol or the alcohol found in food and other products, if it goes through a certain process and a certain production, just to let you know, aerobic respiration or aerobic fermentation cannot give you more than 1% alcohol. So a lot of our fruit juices and a lot of the things that we drink have an ethanol that is just due to natural exposure to the air. So that ethanol is less than 1%, and most halal certifying bodies will tell you that is not considered alcohol that is mentioned as khamar. So just to give you the Hanafi position, because you must remember the fiqh is such a vast science and there's many scholars that contribute and various positions held, and because the majority of our listenership here today is Hanafi, just for practical purposes, the ethanol used for medicinal purposes is permissible. So if you've got alcoholics, aunties, we can continue, the old uncles who need it for that chronic cough, we can continue using the alcoholics. The one proviso is, and I was told this by one of my teachers, is that it's intention also. Some people, and I was told this by a fellow colleague, don't talk about the fiqh and go into detail. What about the people abusing codeine medication and they're going to the pharmacist to get repeat scripts? Rather talk about these kind of problems we're having in our community. And that's true, and that's a topic for another talk. But if we take the alcoholics and we start gulping down to attain intoxication, and then it will become haram. The common question was also about sanitizers. Why, alcohol in the sanitizer? We cannot read salah. It's najis. And I just explained in the slide before that also this sanitizer is not considered impure and can be used topically. Scenario 3. How much minutes? I've got some time. Okay, I don't have too much time, but scenario 3 is very interesting for me because I'm actually practicing, I'm in the clinical field, and I was asked this question. Clexane is extracted from intestinal mucosa of pigs. Firstly, it would come as a surprise to many people. But yes, it is. And can it be used for a patient with the risk of thrombosis? Maybe I should open up that floor. What would people say about this? We're all using Clexane.
All heparins.
Sorry?
All heparins.
All heparins. No, I want to contest you on that.
Especially in South Africa.
No, in South Africa. This was like a mind-blowing eye-opener for me. I asked the pharmacist, but you mean you got this product? And the guy, he says, yeah, I've told it to the guys. And you've heard of Erixtra.
Yeah.
Erixtra is cheaper. It doesn't have porcine derivatives. So I asked, brother, but why aren't we? Well, the guys, they're in the prescription routine and people don't want to change. Is that reason enough? Or I don't know, maybe you guys are the experts in it.
Erixtra is not a heparin.
Oh, okay. No, sorry.
So there are other anticoagulants.
Sorry. Yeah. So correcting, but I'm saying it could be used for the similar use. I mean, there's no necessity for us to use a heparin per se. We could go on to it extra. But it's just a case in point, and I found it very interesting. So very important that I end with this. And this is again, Allah bless these fuqaha, really these giants of our Islamic tradition, who sifted to Quran and Hadith and put down such principles that have made it easy for us to practice our deen today. And much like the sentiment the brother mentioned at the back, is that things are permissible by majority of the scholars until there is an impermissibility sanction. So this is a concept the scholars use with regards to treating patients in a situation like this. Say we had no alternative to Clexane or the heparins. There is a concept called tadawi bil muharram. That means treating with prohibited substances. And these are the criteria that a jurist would tick off before he says, yes, Dr. Wadi, you can go ahead and use the Clexane. So the first thing you'd look at is the illness must be considered as a serious thing. You can't just have a simple headache or a mild cold and say, I want to use a product that's got porcine derivatives. The second thing that the fuqaha look at is that the medication must be acknowledged as being effective by a practicing Muslim doctor or a health professional of equal expertise, that is, who is impartial. You must remember every word in that has been carefully thought out by the fuqaha, the jurist who developed these principles. Let me help me with the mic here. Okay, so no time to go into it, but one of the important things is it doesn't necessarily have to be a Muslim practitioner. If you've got a select, very specialized field that there's no Muslim practitioner involved, then we could get an expert that is not necessarily from a Muslim, but we need to understand that he would not be biased. That's the thing. The fuqaha are looking at the fact that the guy is not just let the Muslims eat pork. So it's fine to go ahead as we need this medication. The benefits of the medication must outweigh the harm. So if you're using a product, my mind straight away goes to the oncology products, and I don't know why. But if you're giving the patient a product or a medication, would it give the patient a better outcome, or the side effects would outweigh the treatment effect? Then with regards to, are there alternate therapies? And the words used there, reasonably available, equal or greater effectiveness. These are all selected words, very carefully selected words. So reasonably available could also boil down to affordability. So if it's not an affordable product, so maybe the alternate to Clexane was Xarelto. This is an extremely or much more expensive product. Then it wouldn't be considered as a reasonable alternative. And the patient would still have the option of using Clexane. And then finally, the permissibility must remain, the permissibility remains for as long as the condition remains. So if you're treating a patient for a particular illness, once the patient has been cured, he can no more use that product. I think my time has run out, and I want to leave you with this slide, and I'm still excited from the beginning of the presentation because, we need to create this awareness, and I think this is the perfect platform to create this awareness where the ulama and the doctors merge. We have to start collaborating. For too long we have run separate streams as ulama and doctors. I think there's going to be a real need, particularly with a topic like this. And really we can pressurize the industry to produce for us. I'll give you a story and I'll close. Somewhere in 2010, 2012, there was a group of Indonesian Hujjaj that needed to go for Hajj. One of the requirements was the meningococcal vaccine. At that time, the only vaccine that was available was porcine-based. So the Indonesian ulama looked at the situation and said, we cannot give you this vaccine, it's porcine-based. And on the Saudi side, they had a different opinion on this vaccine, and they said, no, we're not going to allow the Hujjaj to come without vaccine. So the ulama obviously used the principles that they use and allowed the Hujjaj to have the vaccine. But the very next year, there were big manufacturing companies in China that came to the Indonesian government and said, we've got the vaccine with no haram ingredients. So this is the type of pressure that we can develop if we are aware of what's going on, and we can set up a collaboration to address these issues. Jazakallah khair.